and happy Friday, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Kay, and it's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor Show, as well as Atlas Roofing. Thank you guys, as always, for sponsoring our videos. So let's get right into our weather headlines. We do have another chance to see some hail, as well as some wind in the central and northern plains. And will Chicago sneak in some of that severe weather in the overnight hours? We'll talk about that. And then getting into tomorrow, we do have a decent size risk for both hail and wind for areas such as Minneapolis. So we'll talk about that as well. And I know I've been a broken record about this, but we'll talk about the heat and if we'll get any breaks in that in the coming days. But before we get into our forecast, we do have a few events going on. The first one is ongoing. We are down in Daytona Beach, Florida. This is the last day of the Florida Roofing and Sheet Metal Expo. So if you're down there at the show, come on by to our booth and say hi to us. You can't miss us. We have the good-looking truck. And then getting into a week and a half or so from now, this is going to also be down in Florida, in Orlando this time though, on July 27th. This is the Riva, the roofing machine at the Rosen Center Hotel. So make sure you come on by and say hi to us there. So here are yesterday's storm reports. We actually had a good amount of activity happen. The first area that we're going to take a look at, which was forecasted, was here in the Northeast. We had plenty of wind as well as some hail occur in parts of New York, getting up into the rest of the Northeast. And then we had some scattered hail and wind reports going on in the southern part of the U.S. from eastern Oklahoma down into parts of southern Arkansas, all the way into Mississippi and Alabama, and some scattered reports here in Florida as well. And then, okay, let's not look at Bismarck, North Dakota. We had some hail happen out there in the Dakotas, including Bismarck, and then we had some scatter reports here in western Michigan. So speaking of Bismarck, we did have a 3-star map happen yesterday. This was, again, Bismarck, Napolitan, North Dakota, into Eureka, South Dakota. The largest hail was up to 2.5 inches in diameter, and the amount of houses that were impacted with quarter-size hail or larger was just under 19,000. So we do have that map up on our website for you to purchase. If you're a subscriber in this area, you should already have access to that. So this was a surprise hailstorm, and Bismarck was not in any risk area for severe weather yesterday, but Mother Nature's like, oh, what the heck, let's just give some severe hail to Bismarck. And they actually got hit twice. So again, that map is up on the website for you guys. So here are current conditions across the lower 48. We have this trailing front just stalled out here in the southeast. Most of it is off the coast now. And we have another low disturbance that's moving across the northeast, as well as a system here in the central plains. So let's zoom on into the northeast first. Just a few showers ongoing right now, maybe a rumble of thunder or two. We will be watching this area for some gusty winds this afternoon and evening. Nothing too substantial is expected with that little low moving through the region. And then down into the south, we had the remnants of what was going on yesterday evening and through the overnight, just some heavier shower and thunderstorm activity from the panhandle of Florida to Mississippi and Alabama, westward into Louisiana and parts of Texas, and then moving up to the northern part of the U.S. We're pretty quiet right now, plenty of sunshine at this time. But as we get into this afternoon and evening, we'll watch this area for some widely scattered severe thunderstorm activity, as well as, I can't forget, Utah. We can see some severe weather there as well. So here are current temperatures across the U.S. Another toasty day, although it has been a little bit better compared to the last few days. Kansas City, you're sitting at 90. Dallas, here at 96. 92 down in Houston. Those 80s stretch all the way to the eastern coast with 88 in Miami. And you can see the desert Southwest is also really toasty. And then our dew points, once again, are really sticky down, basically from the Ohio Valley southward up into parts of Missouri and Iowa. We have a 68-degree dew point in St. Louis, 73 in Atlanta. We have a 76-degree dew point in Miami, so I know it feels really uncomfortable down there. And even worse, New Orleans with a 78-degree dew point. So we have a lot of heat and humidity out there as well. So here are some future radars. I believe I have 4 of them to show you. This is the first one here in the northeast. A few showers ongoing right now, and as we get into this afternoon, I'm going to stop it at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Some more thunderstorm development is expected again. They're going to be widely scattered, very low chance of severe weather, but we could see a gust or 2 out of these storms. And as we get later on into the evening, they'll start to push on east. So southeastern New York, you can get some severe weather potentially. Again, it's going to be a very low end chance for this evening. And then we'll lose that heating of the day, and those storms should dissipate, and maybe a shower or 2 will be around. Now getting into the central plains. So again, a shower or 2 around right now, but for the most part, we are dry at this time. But as we get into this afternoon, around 7 p.m. Central Time, you can see some isolated storms are expected to fire here in western Kansas into south central Nebraska. And then getting into later on in the evening, stronger storms are expected to fire up from just north of Des Moines, as well as just north of Omaha into, again, south central Nebraska. And then as we continue into the overnight hours, that stuff will start to die off a bit and move eastward into as far east as Chicago. You guys could see some marginally severe hail with those storms as we get into the overnight between like 4 and 7 in the morning, although I think the sizes should be on the smaller size. We'll get into more details on that in just a second. And then we have a risk here, once again, in the northern plains. I think this one is going to be very widely scattered as well, just like in the northeast. We're dry right now. We'll continue to stay dry through this afternoon, but then getting into the evening, you can see a storm or 2 trying to fire up here in northwestern South Dakota. Going forward in time a little bit more, a few storms here trying to fire near the Canadian-U.S. border in northern North Dakota. And then getting into the overnight, you can see at least 1 cell here with this particular model is seeing in northeastern North Dakota. And then we get into the overnight even more, and that crosses into northwestern Minnesota. And then getting near daybreak, a few more storms may pop up in the Fargo region, but nothing, at least a lot of coverage is going to be pretty isolated for the most part. And then lastly, we're going to check out Utah. Just some pop-up storms for you guys this afternoon and evening. We could get a gust or 2 reaching severe limits here as those fire up, and then getting into later in the evening and into the overnight hours. Once we lose that heating and the instability, those should start to die off. And maybe just a few showers will stick around by daybreak. So here is today's hail forecast. We do have a few areas to watch. The first one will be here in central Nebraska down into northwestern Kansas, eastward into Iowa, as well as central and southern Wisconsin, as far south as Chicago. Again, this will be in the overnight hours. I don't think there are going to be a lot of storms, but the strongest storms are expected to be here in Nebraska and Kansas, where up to golf ball size hail is possible. Elsewhere, with those strongest storms, I think up to $half size hail is possible from Omaha to Des Moines, eastward to Madison and Chicago. And then we have our northern risk here. Again, it's going to be a very isolated in nature, but if storms can get going, we can see up to $half size hail from Bismarck eastward to Fargo, North Dakota. And in terms of wind, we do have a few more areas that we're going to be watching in terms of that. The first one is here in the northeast. So again, it's going to be very widely scattered in terms of thunderstorm coverage, but if a storm or two could reach severe limits, up to 68-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible from Pittsburgh to State College, Pennsylvania, northward to Syracuse, New York. And then we have the second area where our hail risk is for today. Up to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible from North Platte, eastward to Sioux Falls to Des Moines, eastward to Madison and Chicago. And again, this area will be later on tonight into the overnight hours. And then we have our northern risk here from Bismarck to Fargo for any isolated storms that do develop here. So up to 60-mile-per-hour gusts are possible with those storms, as well as any isolated pop-up storms that develop here in the Salt Lake City area. So that is for today. Now getting into tomorrow, it looks like it could be a bit of an active day. So this is at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We will already start to see potentially some severe weather ongoing near the South Dakota, Minnesota border. So again, this is at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And as we get into just before noon, this complex here will be just to the west of Minneapolis. So we have to watch you guys very carefully as we get into the later morning and into the afternoon hours. You guys could maybe get a few rounds here. So this is the first one. This is at 2 p.m. Central Time. You can see this line of storms. I think it's going to be a lot of wind associated with this activity tomorrow, but if storms can stay isolated long enough, we could see some large hail as well. So we have to keep an eye on you guys here in Minneapolis. But then as we get later on into the evening, this line will really start racing to the southeast and impact a lot of Wisconsin. Green Bay, expect some severe weather by 6 p.m. Central Time. Some more storms may fire in the Minneapolis area as well around 6 p.m. And then you can see some more storms trying to fire up here in southern Nebraska, as well as parts of Iowa. And then getting into later in the evening, this is at 10 p.m. tomorrow. This line will enter western Michigan. Green Bay, you'll still start to see some thunderstorm activity as well. And then you can see even more activity in Iowa and Nebraska. And scooting off to the east here at midnight, some more storms are going to continue to fire up in Iowa as well as into central Wisconsin. And then we have to keep an eye on Chicago. You're going to be on the very southern edge of this severe weather risk tomorrow as well. So this is at midnight, getting into this is at Sunday, so Saturday into Sunday. Some severe weather may be rolling on through there, Detroit as well. And then getting into the rest of the overnight, just more thunderstorm activity, some very heavy rain. I really wish we can get some of that here because it's been really dry. But Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago can see some marginally severe weather as this continues to track to the east. And this is at 7 a.m. Sunday morning. Just a lot of rain, thunderstorm activity expected here in Detroit and basically most of southern Michigan. So here is tomorrow's hail forecast. Let's jump right on in. It's again going to be a pretty large area that we're going to be watching. So it's going to be in two parts here, hopefully. Okay, good. The computer's behaving. So from basically central and eastern Nebraska to Iowa, northward to Minnesota, to Wisconsin, we can see severe hail anywhere from $1/4 to $1/2 size from Omaha to Des Moines. Larger hail, though, as we get northward into Minnesota, with a moderate chance to see, I'm going to say right now, up to 2-inch in diameter hail. Again, if these storms could stay isolated long enough, it could be larger, and it could maybe be smaller. It really just depends on that storm mode. And that large hail chances stretch northward to Duluth and then eastward into Madison. You can see I dropped off the hail sizes here for you guys in Madison because I think the storm mode is really going to switch from basically isolated storm, if the storms could stay isolated, to a major line. So just keep an eye on that. And then moving off to the east a little bit, Chicago, eastward to Detroit, Marquette, you guys can see up to quarter to half dollar size hail for any of those storms that do stay isolated. And then for our wind, same area. So let's zoom on in here. So Nebraska to Iowa, northward to Minnesota, have a moderate risk for up to 75 mile per hour wind gusts from Minneapolis to Duluth, southeastward to Madison. Just looking at the models, it looks like it's going to be a very nasty line of storms that's going to be moving through this region. So lines equal wind and not as much hail. So keep that in mind. And then those lower end chances will exist as we get to Chicago and then getting into Detroit as we get into tomorrow night and into the early morning hours on Sunday. So I know I've been mentioning this, but look at this. There aren't as many purples here across the map. It's just a lot of orange. However, it's still hot. Make sure you guys take your precautions. And those darker colors are, again, still in the southeast. So we're experiencing a little bit of a break today with the heat, but unfortunately, it's not going to last very long. It's going to get really hot once again. So let's take a look at our jet stream. We do have that trough here near the Canadian-US border that will give us a chance to see some marginally severe weather here in the northeast. And then you can see this little wiggle here in the central and northern plains. This will be the trigger for severe weather this afternoon and evening. And then getting into tomorrow morning, you can see once again that little short wave within the main trough here in the northern plains. And that will really start to dig as we get into tomorrow and into Sunday. So we got to keep an eye on, I think it's going to be a pretty nasty system, at least in terms of wind, hopefully hail too. And then as we get into Sunday and into Monday, that system will continue to move off to the east. And then we have another little short wave here that we may have to keep an eye on Monday. And then a larger trough here on Tuesday, as well as getting into Wednesday. And you can see that jet stream starting to move to the south a bit. So hopefully we can maybe see some relief soon from this heat. We got to keep an eye on that. So here is Sunday. That system that will be impacting the western Great Lakes tomorrow will be moving off into the southern Great Lakes and into the northeast on Sunday. So both hail and wind are possible across this region. And so yeah, make sure you stay tuned here to Hail Trace for not just today and tomorrow, but getting into Sunday as well. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, as well as our TikTok page. I know we've been going live on a lot of these, especially since we're down in Florida at the show. And if you have any questions, concerns, if you just want to say hi, you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com and check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. And I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you all have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend.